All right, welcome to Making Moves, where each week Kieran Antil, hello Kieran, and myself, Ross Hastings, discuss a company that has been repositioning in their market that week. Always picked from a select few provided by our team with very little notice. Always unscripted as a result, always unedited, and except where we have a minor slip up, always under 15 minutes. And as a result, we always need some sort of cognitive encouragement, usually in liquid form. And what are you sipping on this week, Kieran?
I am with Bloom.
Bloom.
This is my AI suggestion, actually,
Oh, yeah?
for an energy drink that won't kill me. This is natural energy, natural caffeine, as opposed to other things. Prebiotics. It's got fizz, apple cider vinegar. They poured it all in there. I actually had 2 cans of it the other day, and I couldn't sit still. So, not bad, actually.
Maybe when do you reckon it'll be that you can not only ask AI for a recommendation, but then 3D print the actual drink liquid?
Maybe the
and
bottle.
consume it?
Liquid. All I know is
Yeah.
the 7-Eleven guy was like, "Why is this guy taking so many pictures of the freezer?"
Well, you took photos of the freezer and then asked AI.
And I was like, "Where am I going?"
Wow, how's that for like a consideration? Anyway, off topic. I've gone Celsius.
Celsius. Oh yes, that was in the fridge.
Yep. And one of the reasons I went for it is because it's not a drink, apparently. It's a mindset and a lifestyle embodied by those who seek to make the most of every day. So, I mean, it looks like liquid, but we'll see what a mindset and lifestyle tastes like.
A small trend is the black tops of cans that you usually find on much smaller can suppliers.
Mhm.
And I like them.
Well, they're not a small can supplier. It's Suntory. So,
No, that's kind of got trendy with because they're easier to.
But one thing I thought was interesting that is on their packaging space. I don't know if you can see that there. It's in a weird color under kiwi strawberry, but they say, "Don't worry, contains no real fruit." So, yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's a lot of time on our drinks. We are today not discussing Bloom or Celsius. We're discussing The Guardian / The Guardian Australia.
Australian, yes.
Sorry?
Yes, Australian, the variant of.
Yes, Guardian Australia, which is an interesting distinction, I think, for a couple of reasons that we'll get to. But globally, The Guardian has gone live with a brand platform called The Whole Picture. It's picking up on a brand platform that they ran 1968-ish, I think. Maybe later, 78. I think it's 40 years. And I kind of remember this, the ad at least, because it was really interesting. I think we maybe looked at it as part of our psychology undergrad, because the film was something along the lines of a skinhead, which was obviously fairly topical for late 70s, 80s, attacking a man with a briefcase. And you're like, it's quite shock factor, but then you kind of zoom out or you see the full picture, and actually, I think there was falling bricks or something, and he was actually a good Samaritan rescuing the man with the briefcase. And the whole point was, don't jump to conclusions, avoid bias, see the whole picture before you form an opinion, which is really interesting and is obviously very, very topical now. And anyway, that is behind their relaunch of The Whole Picture, which is a global campaign and which they've now launched in Australia. And there's a number of things for us to discuss here, but I think probably the main conversation point is that this is it's a brand platform, but it is trying to leverage the competitive positioning that The Guardian have, and the reason to believe that positioning is their kind of independence in their ownership, funded by the the Scott Foundation. So they lead with this kind of no billionaire proprietor, no puppet master pulling the strings at the top and using us as a mouthpiece. So they believe that they have a reason to believe that independent position in the market, and they're looking to leverage that. So that's kind of interesting discussion point number one. But I think related to that is this idea of positioning yourself in the market competitively for growth is one thing, but it has to be based on a sustainable business model. Free cars for all would probably do pretty well in the automotive space, but how long could you sustain it? So how long can The Guardian continue to exist under the current funding model? I think it's been hemorrhaging money in Australia at least for many years. So great positioning, arguably. We can discuss that. But is it based on a business model that can be sustained? So those are kind of connected discussion points to kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of different things. Is it independence from AI? Is it independence from ownership structure? The referencing of the sort of earlier work, sort of late 70s, that's more about what proper journalism is. It's like, and there's a lot of news outlets these days that are sort of even outwardly politicized. Whichever party they sort of say, hey, this is the lens we're taking. And so this is like left-wing politics or right-wing. And so, to me, that stuff should be way less valued, because you're going, hang on, I'm trying to figure out what's happening here. And you're telling me that you're only giving me this perspective, or maybe they're not owning that and saying we are here fronting up and giving this perspective.
Just on that, sorry, just to pick up on a point you made, whether it's against the billionaire owner narrative or against the AI, I think they're kind of saying today they're not referencing AI, and I think interestingly it's been reported they use AI in their own newsrooms, but it is obviously in the kind of broader heuristic of AI and things like that. I think that the ownership thing is being positioned more as the reason to believe, but there's a couple of interesting things in there. They've explicitly gone out with a journalistic kind of philosophy where they're saying journalism should do more than report what's happening. It should help people understand what lies behind the events. I think that's interesting, because that's not just showing the whole picture objectively and letting people form their own opinion. It's saying we're not just going to report on what happened. We're not just going to show that the skinhead was helping the briefcase guy away from rocks. We're going to tell you how to understand that and what lies behind it, which I feel is a nuance, because maybe you're not a mouthpiece of a billionaire, but there's still subjectivity in there, and it still requires an editorial brand and trust in that editorial brand if I'm going to have my opinion dictated by you. So I think that's interesting. But they also say, because we're funded by readers, not billionaires, we have the independence to pursue journalism that goes beyond the headline and helps audience see the whole picture. So connected, but it's the reason to believe is funded by readers, not billionaires. I feel like that is telling a part story, because as I understand it, The Guardian's only partially funded by readers. They're failing to disclose the ad revenue, the print revenue, the syndication and all that kind of stuff. Not that they would hide that, but in their press release, they're leading this funded by readers, not billionaires, which I feel is only a part of it. It's not the whole. It's not the whole picture.
But get back to the point is that is this a positioning that they can credibly own? Yes. Is it intriguing positioning? Absolutely. They've got a storied place there. I personally don't think that they're really referencing the multiple perspectives work that much, to be honest. So they're talking about the whole picture, at least from an execution point of view. Yeah. It's more, here's a bunch of stuff and we tell you more. The real sort of meaty stuff, I think, is the fact that we can write whatever the fuck we want. Others can't, right? Like that to me is like, that's what I want to know. There's lots I like, art direction, lots of things I think they're really doing. The thing I don't like, to get to that bit and short on time, is it's all about them. And I feel like you're great, but while it's inferred, I prefer the way The Economist talks to its audience, where it is saying who reads The Economist is this type of person. So, it's all like, we're telling the whole truth. It's like, no, actually, when people say, I'm going to go do my own research, you're like, well, yeah, read those, but check it with The Guardian. You want it to be, I read The Guardian because I want to understand the whole picture.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that's maybe what jars with me a little bit. Is I love that skinhead suits execution, right? Like it's confronting, it's challenging, right? And then I buy into the whole picture. You're going to show me the whole picture, but then when they go, we're going to show you the whole picture, and we're going to tell you what to think about it. Then I'm like, oh, hang on, no, that's kind of not what I wanted, and that's the step beyond the Economist thing, right?
Yeah, and I think that the reason I bring that up is if this positioning isn't just going to be unique, but actually work, because you can be unique and not work. In fact, side story, an old art professor of mine, when I did a painting, I remember sort of saying, oh, this is great, no one's ever done this before. And he was like, there's a reason.
A reason for that.
Okay, you don't like it? I think that could be, then I think that's what your point was before. Okay, so you got this unique positioning, that's great, you own this, and congratulations. I hope you're getting your money from somewhere, because it's not coming from people. I think for it to be successful, you need readers larger than they have that are going, this is my religion, this is my identity, and this is what I want. And I like that idea of like, challenge your perceptions, read The Guardian, or get outside your own echo chamber, read The Guardian. Like you are doing it because you do not want to be one of those people that read the same rabbit hole that they're in, and that's the trap people are kind of recognizing.
And that's, so for me, it's like, it's the second half of the promise that falls really flat. I would love the idea of burst your bubble, get out your echo chamber, see the whole picture before you form an opinion. I don't like that. Get the whole picture and we'll tell you kind of what to think of it, which is not exactly what they're saying, but
no.
Kind of
and there's some things I really like about it, but ultimately for that to be successful, it can't, because they've got a passionate following, UK and then obviously into Australia.
Well,
but they hit hard, and I feel like, particularly if we're talking about Guardian Australia, Australians are a little bit more like,
let's touch on that, because I think that's interesting, right? The UK, Australia, UK passionate following, very prominent, big, like strong brand. Australia, probably not so much, still strong, but not as strong. So will it succeed in Australia, where the trust in that whole picture is so critical? But also in Australia, they retracted from ads a little bit, I think, compared to the UK. So they rely more on reader donations here than they do in the UK, and they have a weaker brand.
So that independence from ads, I don't buy. Maybe they're dealing with it by saying one thing and doing something else, like you said, but it's like a
third of their UK revenue is from ads.
Well, at the end of the day, I know there's that purist idea of journalism, art, or whatever, where you're like, no, I don't want any ads, but you're like, okay, but there is a level of independence that comes with the fact that you create revenue in a different way, which means that you do not need to rely on someone who does own you and tells you what to do. So for me, that's both internal positioning, saying, well, what is an ad if it's not? Now, I'm all for curating that ad, meaning we don't advertise anything, but
and they do, like they explicitly say what they get.
The more restrictions you put on those ads, the more you make sure those ads feel very separate from editorial. Obviously, the less valuable they are for the advertiser, and so therefore you've really got a bit of a balance. So it's church and state and things, but to make an enemy of ad revenue is different than a positioning in the market.
And I don't think they necessarily are. I just thought it was a noticeable exclusion from the statement, we're funded by readers, not billionaires. You're like, no, you're only 30% funded by readers. Like, it's a bit of a, when you're saying in another breath, we'll show you the whole picture, and then to not, anyway. One final thing, we've got 30 seconds. What I thought was interesting is the campaign is very, very, very focused on football, or as you insist on calling it over here, soccer, and the World Cup explicitly, right? Which again, I can see being very powerful in the UK, but obviously not such a big deal here. So I am curious to see how that, for many reasons, how the platform lands here. Don't have any time to get your opinion on that. That's time. Cheers.
Cheers.